What is going on, everybody? Thank you, boys and girls, for joining us, whatever platform you are going to be on. Let me just get slightly situated. So thank you guys for joining. It was like we were doing the video premiere. I'm like, wait, you know what? It's Friday evening. Let me do a live stream. So I do want to continue this trend. Now that we have real internet, I want to make sure that we are going to continue this because I do love doing these interactions and just doing these type of events. Unfortunately, we were not able to, let's say, for example, build a gun or something like that on a live stream, at least not here on YouTube. However, we can definitely use this as an opportunity for member-only live streams, basically answering your questions or discussing newer events, new releases, things like that. So definitely looking forward to it and continuing this trend. I know something we did a couple of years ago when the channel started, and then when I decided to get fake internet, i.e., the unlimited T-Mobile home internet stuff. We got some really, really good speeds with that and everything. However, unfortunately, the latency was inconsistent. So when one of my daughters or somebody decided to go live streaming, decided to go watch something, it was just almost like completely unbearable. So weren't able to do that. But now basically I got different internet, and we are able to do these. So I saw Ryan in here. Boom, thank you very much. It's snowing hard. Yeah, so actually it started snowing here too. I'm like, so 2 weeks ago it was like in the 50s and the 60s. It was gorgeous. And I was like, yeah, okay, so it's gonna be fine. We're gonna be able to start doing like go to the range, get a bunch of videos out, and then all of this week. And so this week we had snow twice, and yeah, tomorrow doesn't basically look that much. Now, I saw we have a bunch of others. So, James, okay, so we're definitely going to be discussing this. Um, so, there were 3 polls that I put up on the channel this week. One of them was the best caliber. And that one, I guess, okay, that was completely my fault. I should have specified it a little bit more in terms of what we were looking for. Then next one, I kind of edited and I was like, okay, like what's the best caliber for do it all AR? But I didn't even specify AR-15, and that's when people started giving me answers like 300 Winchester short mag. We got a bunch of 6.5 Creedmoors, 308. I think somebody said 270. 8.6 Blackout, there was one of those answers as well. And I'm like, okay, AR-15 people. So we are going to build a couple of Gucci AR-15s that are like not in 223. So we'll definitely talk about those results. Right, so kind of a couple of updates and stuff that we're working through. So number one, we have about a week's worth more of SHOT Show YouTube shorts. So those are the ones that are published in the morning, those quick short videos. Very, very cool to see on your phone. That's how primarily they're meant for. And then I would say there are 15 to possibly 20 SHOT Show interview videos that are not yet public. Some of them are already uploaded, but they're not public. So I definitely do want to get them all out this month so that by the time that we hit at the end of the month, we are basically going to be able to do like the actual videos and stuff, like real videos. So definitely what's going to be on there. So actually starting this week, I am hopefully there's a couple of decent days that I can actually head out to the range. So the first video is kind of like what's coming up in the content calendar. So we have 2 rifles. So the first one is the Ruger American 6.5 PRC Gold Wild. I started working with that one in November. Then it basically got like really, really bad weather-wise. Then we had SHOT Show and all of that stuff. So I was never able to finish that. And then the other one, which was the Savage 110 and 6 ARC. That one, so we did an unboxing video for that one, which you guys loved. Really, really cool rifle. I actually took it out to the range, And I had like one box of factory that we kind of got it sighted in, and then I was gonna do a barrel break-in with some extra ammo that I had. Unfortunately, what I didn't realize, so this is basically, I'm trying to see if I have it here. I do not. So what it was 6 arc ammo that I loaded for one of the guns, but when I loaded this stuff, like, I guess it was almost like 2 years ago now, something stupid like that. When I loaded it, I didn't resize the cases. The die possibly got loose or something like that, so it wasn't resized all the way. And when I was basically putting in the gun, like, it wouldn't chamber. I'm like, I don't really want to force it or anything else like that. And I mean, basically, data-wise, it really wouldn't matter because I was just literally just breaking the gun in. So we're gonna have some more factory ammo. I am gonna load some more ammo, so we're definitely gonna take that gun out to the range. Those are going to be paired with. So we have the Hawk, not the Hawk, sorry, that new scope that we had from SHOT Show, the Lux Pro, Hilux. There we go, Hilux 34 millimeter. So that is gonna go on one of those guns. And then I do have the two new scopes from Element, the new HD second focal plane scopes, and those are actually pretty dang nice. I mean, like, I was amazed at the image quality difference versus the regular Element. So we're gonna do those 3 scopes, and I do have one of them mounted to a Howa 1500 and 6 PRC that I bought the barreled. I'm sorry, 6 Creedmoor that I bought the barreled action a while back, and finally got a good stock for it. So that's going to be the first stuff video wise that's coming out, along with, actually, yesterday I picked up from Taurus, sent me 2 guns. So one of them was the new one that was just released. That was the TX22 Compact, optics ready, fantastic little gun. I literally just picked it up yesterday. It looks really, really cool. And then a Taurus Tracker in 44 Magnum. So we'll see how my wrist does. Hopefully it should be fine. So those are going to be the first videos. As far as basically as I could remember it, there was nothing really else crazy that, like, I absolutely wanted to get done earlier. And then on Monday or Tuesday, we should have a couple of new suppressors from KGM. So one of them is a 6 millimeter suppressor. So can't base it. It's not, the tax stamp's not going to be approved, but I'm trying to see if I can get one of my FFL or SOT friends to come out to the range with us, and so we can actually play with it on the gun. I'm really really interested into seeing how well a 6 millimeter specific can is going to be. All right. Easter is coming, so that tracker has a home here. Okay. Interesting. Unfortunately, basically, that tracker is already spoken to. I didn't. So the funny story with that one is, like, I was kind of looking into getting a couple of revolvers, but I wasn't sold on any of it. And then one of the local FFLs that I work with here, they definitely hooked me up and they helped me out with, like, transfers on the media guns, things like that. They're like, hey, do you have any pull? Can you, like, one of our good clients, he's looking for a 44 Magnum Taurus, like, basically revolver. And I'm like, let me see, because the distributors, none of them actually had them. I didn't realize that there was, like, such a shortage of them. So I'm like, okay, well, let me do that. And so I'm like, I'm gonna play with it, do a video on it, and then I was gonna sell it to him. All right. So I guess let's talk about the caliber. So I'm not sure which of our friends is going to be joining us, if any of them are going to be joining us. We shall see. But if not, it's going to be just a nice conversation between us. I want to try 5.7 by 28. All right. So let's start basically with the first poll. The first one that we did was, let me see if I can pull it up. Might have to. By the way, thank you. So yesterday I posted a picture of a revolver that, like, we didn't have a clue what the heck that was. I'm like, you know what? Let me use the power of YouTube and posted it, and I think we pretty much got exactly what it was. So it was those Le Chiffreau revolver. All right. So, all right. So let me share my screen. This is the first poll. Share screen. I understand. Yes. All right. So this we posted a week ago. And it was actually kind of inspired. So, I mean, there's really no original ideas on YouTube. We all steal from each other. So one of our channel friends, so Steven, he actually had one specifically regarding like one of the handgun cartridges. I'm like, you know what? Like, what is going to be the most versatile rifle cartridge? And I actually originally meant it for modern sporting rifles, kind of. But we got the results. And what I particularly wanted to know was going to be the difference between 6.5 Creedmoor and 308. So we had the choices. So 5.56, 6.5 Grendel, 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, and 7.62 by 39. I'm kind of surprised that 7.62 by 39 was less than 6.5 Grendel. I guess it wasn't given out to AK people. And I'm not surprised by 5.56. Basically, it's a very versatile cartridge. We do have a really good representation of 223 shooters, and pretty much, I mean, whether you're going to go East Coast hunting, varmint, self-defense, even target shooting, out to 600-700 yards, it's a perfectly fine cartridge. It's not optimized, but it's a perfectly good cartridge. Now, what I was most surprised about is, even on this channel, why there was almost a twofold, there's more than twofold difference between 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor. So I understand, and I guess basically I would have to take a look at the average age of the viewer here, because, and I've only covered two or trying to remember how many 308 guns we had. Three. So the Thompson Center LRR, Howa in an Oryx chassis, and most recently the Ruger S-FAR. Those are the only three 308 Winchester guns that we had on the channel. And we had a couple of more 6.5 Creedmoors. So the Savage Axis, the Ruger Custom Shop RPR, and then I have two more that haven't appeared anywhere yet, which is the Remington 700 and Ruger American. Trying to see if I can see something over there. However, so 6.5 Creedmoor, and this is actually a conversation, and I'm sure a lot of people, I know Ryan, he does work at a gun store. You go to a gun store and people say, okay, well, what's a like if somebody's getting into long range shooting, or somebody's getting into and by long range I use the eloquent term of more than 200 or 300 yards. If somebody's getting into that type of shooting, basically what's going to be a good cartridge? And so when I started shooting, when I started my first forum, I guess it was 14 years ago, the answer was simple. I mean, it was 308. I mean, 308, it's perfectly good cartridge, very easy to reload, tons of ammo out there. You can do 7.62 military type stuff. There's a bunch of ammo that was available out there, and it's a perfectly fine cartridge for out to 600 yards, and then you can shoot it at 1,000, but there's going to be a lot more things that are going to come into play, particularly because you have less short, stubby bullets, and then really with 308, it really depended on whether you're going to shoot 168s, 175s, and some of them basically, once they go subsonic again, it was just like, they just start tumbling. So 308 was the standard go-to cartridge. However, there is definitely barriers to entry at that point. And literally, when you bought that rifle, and for me, the first one was a Ruger 700 Varmint Synthetic, because I couldn't get a 700 Police, but I was able to get a Varmint Synthetic, which is basically the exact same thing except the stock. It wasn't flat on the front end, and it only had one swivel stud instead of two that they do have in a 700 Police. And I remember when I got that cartridge, that you basically had to find the right ammo for the gun, or you have to start hand loading for it, because SAMI specs were like, so, I mean, you have a SAMI spec, but these were like very, very old specs, and the chambers and the types of bullets, everything was completely all over the map. So you got that, and it was almost impossible to go get a box of ammo and a gun and have it all be consistently shooting sub MOA. You had to work at it. Then, what was it, 2008, around that same time, so basically you started getting 6.5 Creedmoor, and then it started picking up steam, and right now, basically you go to a gun store and you see 6.5 Creedmoors for pretty much everything. And 6.5 Creedmoor, I mean, right now, if somebody's getting into it, completely modern cartridge. It's optimized, very efficient. Um, I mean, if you want to reduce the barriers to entry, you're going to recommend that somebody's going to pick up a 6.5 Creedmoor gun. It's just simply what you do. And for one of the large manufacturers, I can't disclose who it is because I don't think they even made it public. But for one of the large manufacturers, they sell more guns chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor than every other caliber combined. So, and we're talking about rifles here. So they sell more 6.5 bolt guns than they do 308, 300 Win Mag, 223, 6.5 Grendel, all of that stuff combined. And when you go to the store, I mean, it's pretty much, in my opinion, it's like, okay, look, it's like if you want to go and shoot, you get 6.5 Creedmoor. If you want to go and learn how to shoot, you get 308, because, I mean, the differences are vast in terms of once you start stretching it out past 500-600 yards, the amount that you have to hold over the bullet drop and, more importantly, the susceptibility to wind is significantly less on a 6.5 Creedmoor than it is on 308. Beyond that is the consistency with the ammo. So with the way that the cartridge was designed, the tolerances were much more precise. There is less differences between the chamber reamers between the manufacturers. So almost any 6.5 Creedmoor firearm that you're going to get, you'll be able to go to the Walmart and get almost any 6.5 Creedmoor ammo, and it is going to be significantly more consistent. So, I mean, we're talking whether the gun is going to shoot between 1 MOA to 1.5 MOA. I haven't had a 6.5 Creedmoor that shot worse than that. Versus with the Ruger S-FAR, so in 308, we purchased 4 or 5 different loads, so 4 or 5 different factory boxes of ammo. And with 308, the variance was as good as 1 MOA, 5-shot groups, up to 4 MOA for your 7.62 NATO type loads. So, and you just don't see that variance with 6.5 Creedmoor. So that's why I was personally a little bit surprised that there's still so many people. So about half the people have voted out of this, but more importantly, more than twice the amount of people would choose 308 versus 6.5 Creedmoor. So that it was surprising. And if you voted in that poll, let me know what you think of that, about that. And while I do this, let me scroll through a couple of the comments. Okay. So Ryan brings up a basically good point. So due to NATO, now for sure, there is a crap ton more 308 ammo, 7.62 ammo that's available out there. And I think this is primarily a US based thing. So in Europe, 6.5 Creedmoor is significantly more popular. And the reason why is because in a lot of places in Europe, you cannot have a NATO cartridge. So 6.5 Creedmoor was basically heavily adopted there. Um, and there is a bunch more ammo that's available for 308, but this is almost kind of like somebody in the comments was like, well, what happened to 30-06? I'm like, I have not even considered 30-06. I know I haven't considered 30-06 in the last 4 years for any of the rifles that we're looking to get. Now, for game, there is more ammo that's available, but I would have to take a look at the energy imparted on by the bullet. Because I would think, well, 308 is going to carry more energy due to slightly heavier bullet at closer ranges. I would say once you get back to about 300, 6.5 Creedmoor actually carries energy better than 308. Okay. Great comment. Have you had to go shoot any of those big boys long range? So this is actually a really interesting conversation. So I was at my local FFL, and so it's actually the same person who had that revolver that we were like trying to identify what that was. And he's like, yeah, it's like I'm like looking to go shoot long range, and like I'm trying to basically determine like what cartridge. And then like the store started talking about somebody else, one of our bigger customers, who was like, hey, I want to. He's like, I'm looking for like a 300 Win Mag or like a 338 Lapua to go. And then actually he was like, yeah, I want to go shoot like if I want to get a 50 BMG. I'm like, okay, well, what's the definition of long range, or like how far would you actually be shooting? He's like, well, maybe like past 300 yards, maybe like 500 or something like that. And I was like you do realize that there's people who are shooting 22 long rifle out to 500 yards. It's like it's totally doable. And really, it's going to come back to okay, like, well, what do you want it to do? Now, if it's just target shooting, I mean, like, so let's put it this way. Do you want to break through an armored truck at 500 yards, or do you want to just hit the steel so you can hear the ping? Because that's going to have a significance in terms of ammo choices. And if you're literally going target shooting, 6.5 Creedmoor is going to be perfectly fine. East Coast, let's say 12 to 1300 yards. And out west, or if you're shooting in higher elevations or drier climates, I mean, there are people who are shooting 6.5 Creedmoor out to a mile without any issues. So it's like you don't need anything like that big unless you basically just say, hey, I want to have something big just for shits and giggles. And that's a completely different story. So that's kind of like the backstory on that one. Now, right. Now, if you're going to go big, then you might as well just go at least 375 Shy Tech or things like that. Now, what I would say is if somebody's considering, now, I can't see the argument if somebody's saying, hey, I want to get a 338 Lapua, and that's it, I want to go shoot a mile, and I want a 338 Lapua. I can make the argument that, hey, you know what? You might as well. Do you hand load? No. Okay, then I can make the argument at that point, then you might as well just get a 50 BMG because factory 50 BMG ammo is going to be considerably cheaper than the much smaller 338. So you can get new factory 50 BMG for about $3 a round. So Palmetto State Armory usually runs the sale, so it'll be like 100 rounds for $300. And it might even come on stripper clips, or like sometimes they have it on... I'm sorry, on a chain, and then it'll be like 3 regular ball and then 1 tracer like in there. So it's like versus factory 338, you're looking $5 a round. And if you're gonna go, once you start going, let's say 330H, 33XC, things like that, then you really should be hand loading because otherwise it's going to be significantly stupid. Hey, look, my brother joined. All right, so 6.5 Creedmoor, so hot right now. Yes. Let's put it. It just makes sense. 6.5 Creedmoor as a cartridge just makes a lot of sense. a ton of sense. James, thank you for joining. So you have the 7 PRC. Let me know what you think of it. That is going to be a cartridge that we're going to discuss. It was like one of the newer polls. Now, when you get the 3,000 yard range, now who's we? Now, is that you personally on your own property or like one of the ranges or something like that? Because I will fly out for that. All right, so that's that one. Let's go back to the poll. So we did, so like, okay. So 6.5 Creedmoor, fantastic cartridge. And if you're going to go, do it. All right, so then a couple of days later, actually less than 24 hours later, I refined it. And what is your do-it-all dream AR chambered in? We will build one and another caliber, leave it as a comment. So this one also got a good amount of responses. Not a lot of surprises with this poll. So I was completely not surprised with this one. So 42% basically voted 5.56. Totally cool. Then I feel great about this. 28% voted 6 arc. 17% voted 6.5 Grendel, 300 Blackout, and then apparently there was 6 people who are still stuck with 224 Valkyrie. Sorry, it's a little bit of a butt of a jokes. So this is actually a cool one. So this I think is going to depend on what part of the country you're living in and what you plan on doing with the cartridge. Now, I made a mistake again. I said AR rather than AR-15 because if you look for the comments, we actually had people 6 arc. I've chased calibers like crazy, come to the realization 223 will do most of the work cheaper. That is actually true. If you're not going to, if your primary purpose is self-defense within 100 or 200 yards, 300 even, and you're just going target shooting out to 600, 223 is all you're going to need. It's once you start going beyond that, that's really where the 6.5 Grendels, the 6 arcs, they're going to be a little bit more optimized. Now, if your primary purpose is if you're a tactical Timmy and you primarily care about zombies or people breaking into your home, then 300 Blackout is going to be very, very tough to beat. Especially if you roll your own ammo or if you're shooting suppressed, 300 Blackout is awesome. If you're hunting, and that's a role for you. So prior to 350 Legend, 360 Buckhammer, we had 6.5 Grendel and 7.62 by 39 were extremely popular for those purposes because for East Coast hunting, 6.5 Grendel is significantly going to have significantly more energy because it's shooting a almost double the weight bullet, or if not more than double, 2 to 3 times heavier bullet over 223. So for inside 300 yards, it's fantastic. You are giving up a little bit of round capacity. So you're talking 26 rounds of 6.5 Grendel or 6 arc or 7.62 versus 223. But the cartridge itself is bigger, more powder. It's a fantastic trade-off. And now that we have reliable magazines, I think it's a fantastic trade-off, and it works. The only disadvantage with those cartridges is that it's significantly more expensive. So I almost had a shock. I went to a local store, and so I'm working on an article for Palmetto State Armory on 6.5 Grendel. And I have a couple of our 6.5 Grendel uppers. Some I purchased, some that were sent to me for review. And I wanted to have some videos with it, but basically instead of hand loading my own ammo, I wanted to make sure we include ammo that you can go purchase. And unfortunately, I shot all of my ammo that I had before. So I'm like, okay, let me go find some 6.5 Grendel ammo. Number one, it was really tough to find. Number two, I did find a store that had it, and they had it marked $28 a box. I'm sorry, not 28, sorry, $48 per box. I'm like, are you kidding me? And fortunately, the store manager, we're a fan of the channel, and we're like, let me take a look at what I can do. And so they showed me their cost on it was $20 a box, and this was Hornady Black. So I bought it for 25 a box. Prior to all of this, this was, I mean, you're able to find like Wolf and Tula 6.5 Grendel for about $8 a box. And the regular stuff was like 12 to 15, and now it's significantly more. Versus 223 is already coming back down to reality, and you can find it as low as $6 to $7 a box. So significant cost difference with them. I mean, it's almost like 760 by 39 came down in price as well. But I mean, 6.5 Grendel is like stupid expensive. 300 Blackout is expensive. Although we can thank PSA because they are rolling out their own ammo, and you can get reasonably priced 300 Blackout there. 300 Blackout, 760 by 39. You can actually do 760 by 39 subsonic, which is really cool. But 6.5 Grendel, so somebody mentioned like it's a fantastic cartridge. 22 to 50, James. It's called 22 Creedmoor now. 8.6 Blackout is going to be interesting, but that's going to be for larger sized ones. But I mean, if somebody's building a, and of course we have someone say 22 Grendel, so that's obviously going to be a hand loader. So it was interesting. But what was really pleasantly surprised is that we did have a good amount of people vote for 6 Arc. I think, and in the next poll, I kind of asked, like, okay, what's going to be the next dead cartridge? And there were some people who did bring up 6 Arc, but here's the thing. 6 Arc seems to have staying power. There was a little bit of a ramp up, and it was a bit slow to launch. And the primary reason for that, so when Hornady launched it 3 years ago now, something along those lines, there were a bunch of manufacturers who said, hey, yeah, we're going to come out with guns for it. But then the Wu hit, and they couldn't keep up with demand, and things basically were postponed. Finally, you're getting bolt-action rifles out there. So Howa finally is doing 6 Arc. You have Savage 6 Arc. You have Smith & Wesson is releasing a 6 Smith & Wesson, Stag, Seekins, Christensen, I believe Bergara as well. They have factory 6 Arc guns. They're coming out more and more. And then Hornady did come out with new separate specifications for bolt guns where you can push it out a little bit more. So I'm excited about it. And this year we're definitely going to do a bunch of 6 Arc content. And I think for East Coast, I am going to shoot 6 Arc in a couple of PRS matches this year. So I am planning on shooting PRS this year, and 6 Arc would be a good way to go. 6.5 Grendel, there's going to be a couple of videos with that. 300 Blackout, I actually have a really cool gun, but unfortunately I had to pull that video due to the trigger being not super friendly and now currently being frowned upon. But it was super cool, especially suppressed. Alright, so let me see what the comments on this one. Yes, personally, on my cousin's. Awesome! So you are going to get visitors. And there is absolutely no comments on our diatribe on there. Yes, it was a fully semi-automatic, it was a fully semi-auto. But I can't bring up exactly the name of the trigger because I really don't want to have any visits from the alphabet agencies. But it wasn't a binary, it was a binary. All right. Awesome. All right, so Ryan, we're definitely going to be showing up at your place. Especially when we need practice for King of 2 Miles. In other places. Not sure I'd qualify for here, but I definitely want to go shoot it overseas. All right. So then let's go back to where screen where we are on. This is the one we were sharing. All right, and then the one that's really interesting. So by the way, this was the revolver that we're like, okay, what the heck is this? Okay. What caliber is going to die the quickest death? And one of these or another else. And once again, that was my warning. We do not bring a 45 gap. All right, so 224 Valkyrie, 30 Super Carry, 86 Blackout, 86 Western. I'm sorry, 68 Western, and 360 Buckmaster. So 224 Valkyrie was kind of placed there as tongue-in-cheek. And the rest are kind of like the newest calibers that were out there. So 224 Valkyrie, as basically as we know, there's a failed launch, there's a bunch of issues, and yeah, for all intents and purposes, it is a dead caliber. I agree. But I wasn't going to put up 6 arc there. 30 Super Carry. So this one, I guess, is it only a year old? I'm sorry, I'm munching. Is 30 Super Carry just a year old? Because so I shot it at SHOT Show last year at Media Day. That was with Federal. And we shot it out of a Smith & Wesson at the Palmetto State Armory, the Gathering event last year, last March. So I guess, yeah. It's a year old. I always thought it was kind of like a solution in search of a problem. And it's like right now I go to the stores, like they had, I think, one, and they didn't really sell it, or they had to sell it with ammo, but like no one really comes in asking for it. And I haven't seen other manufacturers come out with firearms in it. And I think somebody eloquently put it. Yeah, hold on. The one thing 30 Super Carry actually does better can also be done with a $30 magnet, spring update, or base plate capacity. It's weaker, recoils the same, costs 3 times as much, and PSI is so insanely high that it can't fit in those pocket 380 guns. Whereas having those +2 would actually matter versus the plethora of 9mm options adding 2 or more. So I couldn't have said it better than this. God, I hate my Smith & Wesson bodyguards. They're terrible to shoot even in 380. 380 is the primary reason it sucks. The recoil, just barely safe for that frame. Okay. So, 30 Super Carry, basically the way it was positioned as almost kind of like a mini 5.7 by 28, but basically for the 9mm. Smaller bullet, faster velocity, instead of 380. And you can fit more capacity because it's a slightly smaller cartridge, but higher pressures, high velocities, same energies. But, so when I shot these at, I think it was at SHOT Show, when we shot them back to back with 9mm, I could barely feel the difference between 9mm and 30 Super Carry. So it's like, okay, well, kind of like, what's the point? I mean, and interestingly, so unlike 45 Super Gap, there are no major companies who are really pushing this because, for example, like 45 Gap, 357 SIG, they were promoted by the firearms manufacturers themselves, and they produced guns with it. 30 Super Carry was a federal ammo project. Manufacturers don't need to chamber guns in that caliber. I mean, they have nothing to gain out of it. So it was just 30. It was Smith & Wesson. I think somebody else came out with a 30 Super Carry. But it's kind of like, what's the point? And once again, going to local stores, I have like asked them, like, hey, has anybody actually come in and asked for a gun in 30 Super Carry? And we're like, nope, not at all. So it was interesting. All right. Then we had the discussion of 360 Buckhammer, especially versus 350 Legend. I was hoping that Steven or somebody who is a hardcore hunter would actually discuss this one a little bit more, but this is basically a brand new cartridge. This one is a Remington. So 350 Legend, I believe, was Winchester. 360 Buckmaster is a Remington, and basically is a little bit flatter. Just a slightly different spin on that cartridge. But I can't really speak that much more beyond that. It'll be interesting. I think it'll actually possibly survive more than 30 super carry, because out of bolt guns, it's like, might as well just do them. Now, the interesting ones are 8.6 Blackout and 6.8 Western. So 6.8 Western, also a Winchester project. And basically, that was designed to split the difference between 6.5 PRC and 300 PRC. So, but unlike 6.5 PRC, 6.8 Western can't fit in a standard action. It could only fit into a long action. So I was like, well, you're not really saving anything there. And I saw more 6.8 Western ammo to local Cabela's before I actually saw any 6.8 Western guns. And I think I might have seen one over the last year. But it seems like we haven't really had a bunch of advertising for that cartridge. And now that we have 7 PRC, which is basically, so it's like, it was 6.5 PRC, 6.8 Western, 300 PRC. Now you have 6.5 PRC, 6.8 Western, and then 7 PRC right on the opposite side. And you have more 7mm projectiles that are available rather than 6.8. So it'll be interesting to see. But even a 7 PRC, I think it has a lot of really, it's more streamlined 300 PRC. However, I still don't think that's going to be commercially successful. Partly because it's a 7mm. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, I am going to do a King of 1 Mile gun in 7 PRC. But I don't think it's going to be, let's say, for example, commercially successful for most people. But 7 PRC is more streamlined than 300 PRC. Now, 8.6 Blackout is an interesting one. So, it was supposed to be close to SAMI spec, so it was developed by Q. Faxon helped a lot with the development. They have barrels and a bunch of stuff with it. But we still haven't seen a bunch of ammo developed for it. And, I mean, basically, what 300 Blackout is to 5.56, 8.6 Blackout is to 308. I do have a couple of barrels, more like 5. So we're going to do a couple of AR-10s in 8.6 Blackout because it's a really cool cartridge. But it'll be interesting to see whether the momentum is going to be there to make it successful. So when it launched last year, even before going SAMI, it made a major splash. And there was like a line out the booth at Faxon in order for people to shoot 8.6 Blackout. This year, when we popped by, I was the only one in the Faxon booth at that time. And it seems like the momentum was kind of falling off just a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see. All right, so we had some comments on them. Okay. All right, good point. So let me actually remove the poll. And I see people strolling in here. So P365X and X Macro basically mooted it. That is true. That is absolutely true. Then we had the Springfield Hello Kitty. Then we had the Taurus GX4, this Ruger Max 9. And you're able to get good capacity out of those guns. And you're not really spending a crap ton of money. So I think like 30 Super Carry, it tries to basically split the difference. And it's basically, it's for somebody who wants, I want a pocket carry gun, but I want something more than a 380, and I'm willing to spend a bunch more money for it. And there's not that many people. I'm not sure how much the sales of Ruger LCPs and the Nanos and stuff like that have actually dropped. And once again, I mean, shooting a tiny gun like that, it sucks. It kind of sucks. Um, so it's interesting. But the 365, I mean, you're getting good capacity in a slightly larger pistol. So it's like, okay, well, does it make a difference? And if you're not going to carry it in your pocket and you're carrying it on a holster on a belt, then if the grip is just slightly bigger, does it actually matter? Okay. Question for your pistol guys. Shoot in 2 weeks. Has a pistol stage helped me pick? What are the choices? And what are the distances? And what are you comfortable shooting? Now, okay, so Car Shark was the one that you guys saw in a couple of the YouTube shorts. Beretta launched the Beretta 9011. Single action only with proper grips. Really interested in that. And this is an interesting pistol as well because the Cheetah's basically back, metal gun, as far as I remember. And in 380 should be enjoyable to shoot. Now, I still believe it's going to be blowback. So there's going to be a little bit more recoil than your tilt barrel guns like the Ruger Security 380, things like that. But it'll be really cool as a suppressor host. Okay. So Smith & Wesson and Nighthawk were the only two companies that were conned into doing 30 super carry. 1911 answered the question. But really, so it depends on how far the targets you're shooting and how much capacity you need. So generally for gun games, I know for multi-gun, because there wasn't really a caliber restriction, you'd go with 9mm because it recoils the least. So that would basically be kind of like what you work with. But it really depends. It really depends on what you're most comfortable with. Ideally, it would be a 9mm 1911. Okay, Fangs only like 20, not a lot of capacity. So now, is it fixed round stages or is it just 20 target? You're going to need to get 20 and then you can shoot as much as you can. Because that's basically going to make the difference. So for example, if it's PRS and let's say, for example, it's fixed amount of rounds, then you basically know what you can start with, rather than if it's you need 20 hits and you can fire as much as you want at it, then I would go for maximum capacity. Does that make sense? Hopefully that answered that question. Okay, fixed round count of 10. Now, is it going to be, are you going to have time to reload? Or can you reload while moving, things like that? And how far the target's going to be, and is there any hit factor? Yeah, I mean, honestly, so like if you have a 2011 9mm, there's your answer. I mean, there's your answer. I mean, that's pretty much the go-to. If you can't do a 9mm 2011, then you do like a CZ or something like that. But a 20mm, a 9mm 2011, or even honestly, when I started shooting USPSA, I shot with a 1911 9mm, and you can get 10 round magazines for that. So if you're comfortable with that, plenty of 9mm 1911s are available, and you don't need to spend a bunch of money. Especially if it's a 10 rounder. Now you can do 40 as well. But here's basically the thing. If there's no hit factor requirements and you can basically shoot any caliber, go for the lowest caliber you can to knock the target over. The reason why the 1911 Max, this is the Max Michel version, fantastic gun, but it was basically meant for a set of rules for gun games, and primarily it was meant for USPSA single stack, because for major power factor you'd want 40, There's too much of a hit by shooting 9 millimeter. So that's what you have. Yeah. So for example, like the reason why I was kind of asking, so if you're on the clock, like for example, a USPSA stage in generally can be up to 32 rounds. So your 9 millimeter major open guns, they're going to have big sticks that are going to have capacity of 32, 33 rounds capacity. Because if you don't need to reload, that's great. But if you're only shooting a stage where it might be 10 rounds total and you can't shoot more than 10 rounds, then magazine capacity is really not necessarily going to be an issue for you anyway. And then basically in that case, just get the gun that you're most comfortable with or the least amount of recoil. So it's primarily like when you're getting into gun games particularly, I mean, like, it's funny. It's like within USPSA, if you shoot USPSA production, more than half of the people at the Nationals matches are going to shoot CZ75s or CZ75 clones. More than 50% market share. Meanwhile, CZ can barely break out of 1% market share on the consumer market. And it's like, well, half of the competitors at national matches use CZ or CZ clones, but CZ is a company, and it's almost like shocking. I mean, their motto is CZ, for those that know, kind of like this secret. And it's like, I mean, somebody has a really wicked sense of humor because that's exactly CZ's problem. No one knows about CZ outside of competitors. And the reason why CZ has such domination within competitive shooting circles is because it's the best tool for that particular job and for that particular gun game, because it was the heaviest gun that was allowed by production, and it's the least amount of recoil, and for a double action trigger, I mean, I wish I still basically had mine. I mean, there are guys shooting 2-pound double action triggers and then 1 pound in single action. Far nicer than any Glock. Obviously, that's not going to fly with the consumer market, but that's precisely why. And it's like you have people who are basically like, well, look, it's like this rifle wins these matches, which means it must be really, really good for me. And not exactly. I mean, it's mostly the shooters themselves primarily. I mean, so for example, you take a tech competitor like JJ Rakaz. I mean, he switches companies all the time, and like right now, he's winning matches with Berettas, with a highly modified Beretta 92. And it's like, oh wow, Beretta 92 is like this great gun. No, it's simply because you have an amazing shooter who is paid to shoot that type of a gun. And to them, basically, I mean, the difference in the shooters is really going to overcome the differences in the toys themselves. So it's shooter abilities first, and then getting the proper tool for the job. Perfect. All right, so we answered that. CZ Scorpions are sweet, yes. All right, so let me see if there's any questions that I missed. I do want to, we're almost basically approaching an hour. I do want to keep it a little bit shorter today, even though like right now people are finally like starting to pop in. All right, so actually James, he didn't comment, but he purchased a 7mm PRC, Ruger American. Um, Let me see. Do I have it here? So 7 PRC is a really cool cartridge. I don't see it here. Brought one back from SHOT Show. So 7 PRC, really cool cartridge. But it basically fits long action. I am waiting for a Ruger American in 7 PRC. We will have to see. There is basically support for it. You have now dies from Redding and RCBS for it as well. And I think that's going to basically displace 6.8 Western. And we'll take a look. But we are going to do a 7 PRC. There's also the 7 PRC in. There's also 7 PRC in. Who was it? Mossberg. We'll see. Now, did they actually announce a semi-auto in 7 PRC? Or are we asking them to rechamber? Because that actually is a really cool idea. And interestingly, so last year we did a video with DRD Tactical for the Kivari in 338. I want to talk to them about seeing if they can do like a, or anybody who's done a 300 Win Mag semi-auto to do a semi-auto 7 PRC. Or even 6.5 PRC would be really cool. Actually, with 6.5 PRC fit into an AR-10 mag. Now, is the channel going to get banned if I do this on video? Let me try this. Let me grab a 6. Okay. Stand case. There we go. I do have a live round. Let me grab a AR-10 mag. Be right back. Oops. Walk in front of that camera. All right, this will be interesting. 6.5 PRC, AR-10 mag. Now, so you'd have to seat the bullet just a little bit more. Ooh, that's an idea. So basically, on this bullet, I mean, the meat plat, if you stuff one, so this is a 143. If we stuff a 140 in here, it might actually fit one of these mags without having to redo it, without having to make it a little bit, without having to do an AICS type mag. Out of an AR-10 might be possible. Now, basically, the only thing you would need is a bolt. Okay, that's basically an idea. I'm going to run it by somebody. However, yeah, so it's really going to depend on the mag. I mean, it almost clears it. You would need to, depends on the bullet type itself. So, I mean, the meat plat is the only thing that is kind of sticking out a little bit. But if you use a shorter bullet, you can get the overall length down. That could it would fit. And basically, because keep in mind, so I mean, there's out of bolt guns, you have companies out there that feed 6.5 PRC out of a standard action. So it's only Howa and Ruger that feed 6.5 PRC out of a long action. However, Savage and pretty much everybody else, Mossberg, um, they stuff 6.5 PRC into a standard action. So with shorter bullets, I think it would work. I am definitely going to be running it. And all of this was inspired by this comment, an Omen and 7 PRC. Um, that could be interesting. Now, along the same line, so actually, I got an email the other day that let me pull this up on here. So, Caracal, anybody remember Caracal? They were popular in the U.S. I believe 2004. The company that's out of United Arab Emirates, they came out with the Caracal pistol. Really cool shooting ergonomics and things like that, but then it was basically recalled and they pretty much went bye-bye. They came out, and now they're Caracal USA. So okay, let me share the screen on here. So I hope this. Actually, I'm going to take it off. I hope because basically it's somebody holding a gun, and I don't want this stream to basically be taken down. So they have the enhanced F pistol, but what they started doing was they're going to start manufacturing. They have 308 and 338 Lopwa bolt guns, both bolt and semi-autos. And apparently the bolt gun is going to be coming into, not coming into the United States, apparently manufactured in the United States. So very, very soon. Plus we're going to have 2011s and all of that stuff here. So I already reached out to them. Well, at least for marketing companies. So hopefully we'll get some answers. But interesting. So actually, let me bring it up. It's not in this one yet. Caracal. Okay, why is this like loading so slow? Okay. There's no one holding him, so I can show it. So they're coming out with this one. So it's the CSR 308. Fully ambi controls. It's their own proprietary action. From people who have shot it in the past, apparently it's pretty nice. Almost like a little bit AI-ish in the action. But what I'm dumbfounded about is like, I hope we don't bring the rifles here or build them here with key mod, because that's basically like dead as dead. Well, look, it's key mod and Picatinny rail on the bottom. So I hope they don't do that stupidity. But this basically is going to feed AR-10 mags in 308. Then they also have, so this is the international site. They have the same thing in 338 and 50. So that's the 338. And same thing, so like adjustable comb height, adjustable length of pull, and it looks like the stock itself just goes in and out. AR trigger guard, basically it looks like it's going to feed AI CIP mags. It doesn't say, but it looks like an AI CIP mag. Okay. Then they have so both of those are coming to the US, but I'm not sure if we're going to build them here or not. The 50, They did not make any announcements on, but this would be really interesting. Now, what's cool is they also have a semi-auto 338, which is freaking cool. I think they also have a semi-auto 50 as well. So completely enclosed bolt, no exposure environment. Removable polymer forend, which covers an integrated arc rail. So this one, it looks like and look, it has M-lock. So they actually talked to somebody who knows how to shoot, and they modernized it. So super, and everything's ambi. Non-reciprocating charging handle, folds to the left side with a brake and all that stuff. And I think these are going to be relatively, I mean, this would just be cool. And they have been shooting these for years now in the Middle East. So Caracal has been supplying militaries and private contractors and stuff out there. So it's not like something that's basically brand new. But it's like super cool. I'm like, I really hope they bring this in. But if they didn't make any announcements on the semi-autos, just the bolt guns right now. Plus, we're going to have 2011s. They also have regular ARs and things like that. So it's pretty interesting gun. So that's the Caracal website. You guys can take a look at yourself. Unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know whether we're going to bring them in here or not. All right, so question came out. Best precision rifle setup for $2,500. How far do you plan on shooting, and is that including the scope or not? I'll answer that question. Including scope around 700 yards. Okay. So I kind of like this because so when it comes to this, so yep, Josh. So that gun was cool. I played with it. All right. So to answer this question, to actually be helpful on this live stream. So number one, basically, you want to know whether it's gonna be the total package because you do want to know between how you're going to separate the money between the scope and the gun, or whether it's just the gun by itself, because you do have options. The other question that I would say is, are you allergic to Chinesium? Meaning, are you okay if the scope is made in China or not? Because that's going to have a significant difference on the budget. So, like it or not, so past 700, like for example, like if you said you need a scope out to 500 yards, they're like, okay, well, it'll be almost any scope. I mean, even a second focal plane is going to be fine. But when you start going past 500 yards, you do want to get a little bit more capable scope. You need a little bit more internal elevation adjustment. And there's a bunch of Chinese scopes that can fit a reasonable budget where that's going to work well. But if you're basically going to saying, hey, I don't want Chinese, that means you now need to spend, well, it depends on how you feel about Philippines. So it means you'd need to spend more money to either get a Philippine scope or get a scope made in Japan. So the cheapest Japanese scopes are going to be right around 1,500 or so. So those would be your Athlon, Athlon Cronus, Track Torix, fantastic scopes. But That's because basically, if you don't want Chinese, I mean, that's the cheapest Japanese scopes that you can find. Um, okay. Hey, I think you just deleted a comment between $300 to $500 scope. All right. Now, if you're not allergic to Chinesium and you don't mind whether if it's an American scope that's made for if it's a Chinese made scope made for an American company, then you have a ton of options and you can spend less. So basically, even something like a $500 Vortex Venom, that means you can spend $2,000 on a gun. Right now, what I would probably say is get a Ruger Custom Shop RPR. So it has an MSRP of like $2,200 or something like that, but on Grab a Gun, I've seen them for about $1,600, which means you have $900 for a scope budget, and that will shoot in 6.5 Creedmoor. You'll be able to get out to 12, 14, 1,500 yards, no problem. And then you can get a scope something like even on the low end, like a Vortex Venom, for $500, or you can get something nicer like an Element Titan, or what I'm really tempted with, and we'll hopefully have an answer within next couple of weeks, is the new Hilux, which is $800, and that's a nicely full feature type scope. Now the alternative is if you don't really need to spend that type of money, and it really depends on if you want a chassis or not. Like this one bugs me just quite a bit. And that is if you're going to get a gun and you don't care whether it's a chassis or a traditional type stock, CZ600, once you forgive them for all of the things that they promised and not delivered on, hence the interchangeable barrel swaps, you can get a CZ600 and 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC for about $650. Then get a $500 to $600 scope, and you'll be able to accomplish sub MOA groups for out there. So I've done the video for both. That's going to be a really, really good option. I mean, I really like the CZ600. I mean, but there's a limited aftermarket, but the stock trigger is fairly nice. The barrel is a heavy contoured barrel, even in the CZ Alpha, and it shot half MOA with factory ammo in 6.5 PRC. All right, so let me hide that. Now, Ryan did bring up another point. So, okay, for a rifle, look at Savage Axis Precision Rifle and Oryx chassis. I slightly disagree with that because you'd be spending $400 on the gun, you'd be spending another $500 on the chassis, and it's still not the nicest chassis. It's like, and it's not the nicest actions to begin with, and it's like, it's kind of like, what's the point? I mean, because, so honestly, from the flip side of it, I mean, I would just basically say, and we're absolutely doing this on the channel, so that in 6 ARC, we have the Savage. What the heck did I just buy? The one I did a video on, the 6 ARC, what's the model for that? From Sportsman Warehouse. Oh God, what's the name of the model? It's not the tactical. It's not the 110 tactical. It's the 110. It's a special model just for Sportsman's Warehouse, but it's basically, it's a Savage 110 tactical, but in a regular stock. And then, so basically that gun's $500, and you have a 110 action. Then throw it into a $500 chassis from Sharps, and you're well on your way there. Yeah. And like I said, if you want to keep it simple, I would say Ruger American Hunter, which is the one that comes in a Magpul stock. That's going to be an option. I would also say you have an option for, we haven't done it yet, but KRG just released their Bravo stocks for the Ruger American. So you can get a heavy barreled Ruger American in 6.5 Creedmoor. And then for $400, $300, get a KRG Bravo stock. You're under $1,000. And then you can spend the rest on an optic if you want to do that. So one option is, so the Savage Axis 110. So it's not the Savage Axis. So you have the Savage Axis and you have the Savage 110. The Axis is an entry level action. The 110 is the nicer one. So I did a video on the 110 Elite Precision in 300 PRC. So that is a heavy contour barrel that comes in a Savage. I'm sorry, that comes in an MDT ACC chassis, which is like $1,000 chassis by itself. And it's a nice gun. I mean, it shoots sub MOA and all that stuff, but really, just really what it comes down to is, do you need, quote unquote, a chassis? Like, or do you just want the way that it kind of looks, or are you okay with a actual stock? And I guess really, do you want to just buy something, or do you want to buy something, or are you okay with getting a barreled action and sticking it into your own chassis? Because then you can buy a nice Howa 1500 action, barreled action, and just stick it into a chassis or a stock. Now, so there was a comment about 6 Creedmoor. 6 Creedmoor is a great cartridge, but I wouldn't recommend it for most people because, I mean, especially if you shoot often, because after 1,000 rounds, you're going to be replacing the barrel, and it's money that's wasted. So if you're a gun gamer, well, then basically you know that you're going to be replacing barrels. That's one thing. Or if you're a hunter and it's not going to be a gun that's going to be shot often. But here's the thing. Your typical person, when we're going to go to the range and they go like, oh my God, I love long range shooting. We're going to go between 100 and 200 rounds per trip, especially if you're going to go with friends. So does that mean you're going to be okay replacing barrels every 5 to 6 range trips? 6 Creedmoor is a purpose-built cartridge, but it's a freaking barrel burner. So I know we confused you, but that's basically a good amount of it. So I would basically say, start with the question of, are you okay with the Chinese scope or not? And then the second question is, do you want a chassis rifle or not? So I'd say those are the two most important questions. And there's definitely no right or wrong answer. There is no right or wrong answer. Like I said, the difference is it's whether you're going to be okay spending twice as much money in order to get the same capabilities out of a scope. And here's the thing, though. Here's the thing with that. It's, dang it, Drew made a comment and I lost my train of thought. Okay, it might come back to me. So we're talking about scopes and whether, so you're going to have to spend twice as much money on a scope in order to get the same capabilities. Oh, okay, so I know where it's basically going with that. And here's the thing to keep in mind. Just because you get a scope that says made in Japan does not mean there's no Chinese glass in there. I would even say is, just because you spent $2,500 on a Leupold Mark V does not mean that the glass did not come out of China. So even for the Mark Vs, the Leupolds, glass is sourced out of 3 places. It's sourced out of the US, Japan, and China. And for every batch run, depends on where we get it, that's where it comes from. The glass has to meet, there's certain criteria for it, no matter basically where it came from. So, I mean, you can get Chinese glass that's better than German shot glass because it's just different. Um, so keep that in mind. I mean, absolutely keep that in mind. Um, so I'm personally, especially if you're getting into it, I'd spend $500 on a Vortex Venom or like an Element Helix as a good starting point, because those are going to be very capable scopes and they come from companies that are going to absolutely back it. And then you can basically learn, hey, what do I want to upgrade? But here's the thing though, you're not, if you basically get that scope and you're like, oh my God, I hate the reticle, or I hate the turrets, or I hate this, or I hate that, it's only a $500 mistake versus spending $1,500 on a Japanese made scope that you learn, hey, I should have gotten it in MRAD instead of MOA, or MOA instead of MRAD, or like, I really don't like this reticle, I have a preference for this type of a reticle. And you're not going to understand that until you finally start shooting it and start understanding the difference, because it's all personal preference and literally there's no right or wrong. And here's the kicker, depending on how you use the gun, if you go shoot an F class type match, pretty much all of those guys are running MOA reticle rifle scopes. If you go shoot a PRS match, the vast majority of people there are using millirad reticles. That's just what the gun games use, and like, it's basically what people are using that. Why is it a barrel burner just 243? It's so I'm not super familiar with 243, but 6 Creedmoor in particular, because you're running lighter weight bullets with the same amount of powder, if not more powder, it's meant to run at 3,100 feet per second. You have a bunch more throat erosion with that cartridge, and it's basically accepted that between 1,000 to 1,500 rounds, the groups just start opening the hell up. Now, if you hand load, okay, perfect. And Ryan actually just kind of answered that as well. Now, if you back it down, it could last you a little bit more, but I mean, and it's not like necessarily that it's just not going to shoot, but it's not going to shoot as well. But it's pretty much basically a given that between 1,000 to 1,500 rounds, you're going to start replacing barrels. And I know some people who compete with 6 Creeds, they are replacing barrels every 800 rounds. Because after that point, the groups just start, it just can't keep its accuracy as well. Drew, you're good. I got your email that was submitted, so you're good. You're all set on that. Congratulations again. And for those not familiar, so Drew, if you're a supporting channel member, you can hit the join button right about there. We do also, besides the public giveaways, we do also run some member-only giveaways, and you have some incredible chances of winning stuff. So I definitely go out of my way to help support the supporting channel members when we can. Will the new Helix be offered in silver again this series? You mean the Fios? That new brand new Fios scope that we just did a video on? That one is going to be in silver. That color that it came out with is exactly what it's going to be. A cold hammer forged barrel might last a bit longer. You wouldn't want to have it out of an AR-10. I mean, but here's the thing though. Typically, a typical cold hammer forged barrel is not going to be as accurate as a proper stainless steel barrel. So I kind of look at it from the perspective of, it's like buying a Corvette, but putting in regular. I kind of look at it the same way for cold hammer forged DD barrels. Ouch. Okay, so now I'm like getting lost in the comments, but I will get through them. And if you're a channel member, it does show up, and then you'll see those little markings. And then if it's a super chat, it automatically pops up. All right, so if I did go to the rabbit barreled action, would you recommend? It's tough. Honestly, I would. Oh, so here, go find the video that I did on the 6 ARC unboxing. All right, now this is gonna bother me, so let me actually look it up. Savage 6mm ARC Sportsman's Switchback. That's what it was. Duh. All right. I don't need this. Okay. So let me share the screen again. Okay. So if you are going to go the barreled action route, definitely go for the 110 over the Axis. So basically, this is the switchback. This is an exclusive line that Savage is making for Sportsman's Warehouse. The action itself is a Savage 110 Tactical. Same barrel contour, same oversized bolt handle. It has the same type of stock. However, it is not an AccuStock. So this is basically the cheapy stock. It's a throwaway stock. It'll be okay, but it's a throwaway. Comes with a 20 MOA rail. And it is going to come with a radial brake, but more importantly, it's threaded, so you can put on a brake of your choice or anything else like that. A typical Savage 110 Tactical is going to be about 800, and I still consider that action a throwaway. I'm sorry, I still consider that stock a throwaway stock. It's not that great, primarily like due to this angle. So if you're going to toss it, why not just get the cheapest action you can get with a heavier contoured barrel, and it's threaded for a brake or a suppressor. And it already comes with a 20 MOA rail. So $589. You can sign up for a credit card and you can get like $50 off or something like that. Then you can get a. So I think KRG is also making chassis and stocks for it. So I would go with the Sharps Heat Seeker. Well, so 2 ways. So you can get, let's see, does KRG make a. Okay. Yep, they do. So you can get that KRG Bravo stock for 400, and you are good. Okay. And like I said, and the good part is it's going to be ready to go for AICS pattern magazines. So that's option number 1. And then basically there's a bunch of accessories. You have a metal chassis in between. It's purpose built, adjustable length of pull, adjustable comb height, all of that fun stuff. Another option, and we started playing with this one. So it's the GRS Warg. Do they make it for Savage? Yeah. This is only if you're right-handed. So you have these stocks. In the US, they might be a little bit cheaper, but basically fully adjustable, really, really good values. This is the Bifrost. So the Fenris is the cheaper one. That's an option. The one that we're going to be building here is not Seekins. What's the? I think I have a visitor. Hi, wife. She's just sneaking through. Um, so the option we have, what's the name of the company? Sharps. Sharps Savage 110. So you can go this route. 436 for the chassis. Then the only thing that you would basically need is your choice of pistol grip and your choice of AR-15 buttstock. So all in, you'd be probably about $1,100 or so. But you're going to be all set with that. So that's actually what precisely we're going to be going. And you're going to have a kick-ass precision rifle gun. And then further on, if you wanted to upgrade the trigger, things like that, you can absolutely do that on the 110. And like I said, the alternative is, so if you go Ruger, so with Ruger, you have basically two options. So the first one, let's go this way. So really, if you want to, you can get a Ruger precision rifle for about $1,500 and just basically be done with it. Option one. You might have a little bit of an issue trying to find one, but so MSRP now is 1,900. Hopefully, street price is going to be about 15, leaving you $1,000 for that. But then it's going to be infinitely more upgradable. The other option is, until you basically know what you want, bolt action. So they have out of the Ruger American. So the American and the Ruger Precision is exactly the same action. The bolt shroud is different. It's just basically how it's wrapped. So if you're going to go this way, you can go one of two ways. You can get the Hunter, which is going to be a set and forget it. So MSRP is 1,000. You can get it for about 800. So this will come in a Magpul Hunter stock, heavy contoured barrel with a decent break. And this you'll be able to go out there and just shoot exactly as it is. You can save money by getting the Predator. So I wouldn't go with the standard. I would go with the Predator. It's a little bit of a heavier contoured barrel, but most importantly, it's going to come threaded. So that's this guy. And I have one there. I just can't bring it up on camera. I've done a video on the Predator in 6.5 Grendel as well. So basically, it's a longer barrel. It's threaded. MSRP is $619, so you'll be able to find it for about $500 or a little bit less. And then basically do the exact same exercise by putting it into a KRG chassis or anything else like that. And it'll be sub MOA. It'll be sub MOA when you put it. And you have a huge aftermarket for Ruger American upgrades. So triggers, bolt handles, bolt knobs, scope rails, bolt shrouds, all of that is upgradable. So that's probably what I would do, one of those two ways. And then, like I said, if you literally just wanted... So I'm glad you brought it up. So a lot of these upgrades and stuff, so for example, like chassis and stuff, so for our channel members, so hit join, become a channel member. For our channel members, we do have a special discount code for 10% off everything at Anarchy Outdoors and a bunch of other companies. And you can basically get scopes. You can get, so it's discounts on scopes, accessories, things like that, chassis, all of that stuff. So it saves a bunch of people a bunch of money through Anarchy Outdoors. So for example, like actually, good friend of the channel. So you can shop by rifle. So Ruger American. So here you have replacement bolt handles, bolt knobs, bolt shrouds. You can actually buy the American stock. You have triggers. Wow, that's a good price on it. If you want Gucci, we have the Wook stock. And there's the Sharps Heatseeker chassis. So 436, and then you get 10% off, so it's going to be under 400. And I believe Aaron also has the KRG. We have a hint. We have a video on this coming out. The barrel tuner brake. Okay, so I don't see it in here yet, but Aaron has. They will carry the KRG Bravo stock for the Ruger Americans here as well. So you have a bunch of that. So like I said, I like the upgradability path of the Ruger Americans anyway. And then you can actually take a look at the videos that I've done. I mean, it's almost unrecognizable, the Ruger American 6.5 Grendel that's going to be soon a 6 Arc, with the chassis, with the Sharps Heatseeker and all of that stuff. And all of that with the scope, it's still under that budget. Now, like I said, if you don't want to mess around with a gun, then honestly, for about $700, get a CZ600. I mean, it shoots lights out, but there's not going to be aftermarket for them because basically it's CZ. It's for those that know, and no one knows them. And there we go. And there is your commercial for that. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing with that Bravo. What do you know about BSF barrel, the stainless carbon? Are you talking about the structured barrels? I don't have personal experience with them. Ryan, I believe you do, correct? Um, who else had? Ilya, Dark Lord of Optics, he had one. But I don't have our carbon fiber barrels. The only ones I have that you're going to see soon is we have a Gucci 6 Arc built with a carbon fiber proof research barrel, 4.6 Arc. And then we have, for the one of the Ruger Americans, we have a 6 Arc Oregon Mountain Rifle Company. Beautiful barrel. And then I believe the guys at Helix 6, they wanted to get a barrel out or something, so we'll take a look at what we do with that. But I don't have anything specifically on the BSF that I can share. Besides that, I know some people are quite happy with it, but it's going to be whether it's worth it. But I don't have personal experience with it. So I'm basically structured barrel. There's space between the layers to kind of help apparently dissipate the heat a little bit more, but I haven't looked at the actual signs behind it or anything else like that, so I would not know. That would be interesting, though. Okay, so I think... okay. So the first one that came out was the Japanese-made one. That is the Element... Oh, which one was that? Nexus? That's Nexus. So actually, let me pull this up on here. Wait, why is it in blackish color? This should be silver. I know it came out basically, it was silver. And now we're going to have the... Or unless now that the Fios came out, They are keeping the Fios in silver. Actually, I think it's just the website pictures, and when they overexposed them, it just looks that way. But the Fios is in silver, and it's a good-looking scope. Hopefully, we'll get one for the channel. It'll be interesting. But also, it looks at it. If you want... I don't know if we're going to do the helixes in that color. Because I think from basically when I talked to Matt, he said that if we want to keep that color for something above and beyond, and that's currently the Fios. There is, however, nothing stopping you from doing it yourself. I would not use any carbon fiber for PRS. Valid point, but it really depends on who you talk to. So basically, some people want to lower the weight as much as possible. Others don't. It's a lot more expensive, especially for a barrel burner. It's like, do you really want to do that? But I concur. For a PRS build, I wouldn't justify it. What would you put on a 6-Creed and AR-10? Are we talking about scope? So once again, we're going to go basically budget. Are you allergic to Chinesium? And how far are you going to shoot? Sorry, I am snacking here. I would say my general answers are 500 budget. I would say Vortex Venom. Or possibly the Arkans. But if you're okay with Arkan customer service, that's the only caveat. Vortex, it's a Vortex, so basically if something breaks, it's Vortex. It's not as capable of a scope in terms of internal elevation adjustment and all that stuff, but it's a really nice scope. There's a new one from Bushnell, but I haven't looked at that one. If you step up to, let's say, 700, I have high expectations for the Hilux PRS scope. I did a quick video with... here, let me grab the scope. We can do that. I'm going to sneak across the... I'm not going to sneak across the camera. Okay. So since we were doing... Woo. That's what happens when I cut across. Alright, since we're doing show and tell... Alright. We're going to save that one for a little bit. So the one I have high expectations for, and we're going to see the new videos. So Primary Arms, they announced a new 4.5 to 27 made in the Philippines. That's the new GLX 4.5 to 27. That should be in a good price point. This is the older one. So this is the 6 to 24, 30 millimeter tube. Interesting scope. I like the turret. I like the turret feel on here. I like the zero stop, but it's still based on a 30 millimeter tube, so you're a little bit limited. One of my favorite for image quality and reticles is this guy. So it's the Burris RT25. I've done a video on this one already, so you can look at it on the channel. Really solid feeling turrets. Not super audible, but super tactile. This one was locking. Yeah, it's locking as well. So you can make your adjustments, lock it in place, and you're good. You have this really nice big shark fin that you can change position wherever you want to have. It is a 5 to 25, and it absolutely has my favorite reticle, which is the SCR2 reticle. Yep, SCR2 reticle. So definitely a really, really nice one. However, the one I was excited about finding at SHOT Show is this guy. So that's the Hilux 5 to 25. This is the first like series scope. I haven't done a video on this one. This is gonna go. Hello, hello, Peter. So I guess we can do an unboxing. So it comes with a bunch of stuff. So it's gonna come with nice flip caps, which I like. And these are meant specifically for the scope. So there's not like anything really sticking out. You're gonna get the throw lever, which is like pretty nice big throw lever. You get a sunshade and the scope itself. It's a big one. What's in here? Oh, and you get 2 extra batteries. And look at this. These are Sony batteries. They're actual Sony batteries. Can you believe that? So it's not like really cheap batteries or anything else like that. All right, so this one, they're selling on a website. Yep, Sony batteries. All right, so basically, this is the scope. I mean, it's a nice big scope. I mean, it's a 34 millimeter tube, like massive turrets. And you can hear how audible it is. It's insane. Super sharp, super tactile. These are also locking. So they do lock. So you're not going to bump them or anything else like that. The windage adjustment is the same thing. It's locking windage adjustment as well. Same thing, super tactile, super audible. I mean, it's pretty nice. Then we have a parallax adjustment. Little stiff. I mean, that's probably the only complaint I can say about it. The parallax adjustment is a bit stiff. The magnification, super smooth. It's a 5 to 25. And here's basically the kicker. You're like, okay, well, where's the illumination? Because there's nothing on here. It's the buttons on here. So it's push button illumination, and you can adjust the settings. So what that means is that you don't have a separate illumination turret taking up space on here. So yeah, pretty interesting. Why are the parallax knobs always so stiff? So I don't know. This one's, I generally don't have that much of an issue with them, but we'll see. That is because it's just really cold in here, and you can actually adjust it. So we'll definitely take a look. Look at the serial number 1001. Now, the really cool part is the entire reticle lights up either red or green. So you do have options for this. So this one I think is going to be like $750. It's currently available. I mean, it's a nice big heavy scope. Image quality on here is awesome. Now, if you're a fan of holdovers, you have 20 mils worth of holdovers within the reticle, which is like super nice. I mean, it's not the most like detailed type reticle. I mean, it's not as nice as the SCR, but it's super easy to use. Super intuitive, nice big wide field of view. I mean, we have the, I would have to put that on. We do have the scope caps, all that stuff. I mean, it's an awesome ready to go package. So I think this, once we have it out at the range and just verify it holds 0 and all of that stuff, this might be my recommended scope under $1,000. And then Beyond that, otherwise, if we take the scope out of the equation, I would say the Element Titan is the go-to recommendation because it has a lot of the same features. The turrets feel really, really nice. They're not as big or tall, and they're not blocking. It does have illumination, but that one's a really, really nicely done scope as well. That one I can't unfortunately take out because it's sitting on a gun right now, and that's sitting on my long range 22, my long range Ruger 1020. Well, it's not even Ruger; it's a Ruger. It's an Azimuth Precision 1022. So I'll basically say that that is currently kind of like my go-to recommendation for those price points. Um, yeah, but I really have high expectations for the scope. So if you need, and this is basically we're talking about first focal plane and all of that stuff. And then once we go above that, so let's like for example, if you can get up to 1500, then Athlon Cronus. Actually, you can get a Cronus for about 1200. That's a Japanese made scope already. Then Tractoric. I think the Rhydon 7 series, that's a Japanese made one as well. And then there's the new one from Citron that we played with at SHOT Show. That's the video I think that we released yesterday. Well, hold on, did I release that video or not? I don't remember if that video is released yet or not. Somebody tell me if I released that video or not. Actually, I'm going to look at the channel right now. Mm-hmm. Okay. It is not yet released, but I uploaded, but I just didn't do the thumbnail and all of that stuff. So that's going to be out for tomorrow. So Citron has two new S6 scopes, which are Japanese made, $1,500. And it's Citron. So, I mean, it's a very well-respected brand. Good warranty and all of that stuff. So that's going to be an interesting scope. And then basically, if you go 2000, then it's pretty much tough to beat the Loophole Mark V. I mean, it's I think for anybody, it's like if you have a $2,000 budget, Loophole Mark V. And then above that, honestly, I'm not the best person to ask. I'm not. That would be already the territory for Iliad Darklord. So there is a long, convoluted answer. Okay, so yeah, you brought up the Rhydon X7 Conqueror. So Rhydon doesn't actually make any of their own scopes. They basically go to Japanese companies overseas, and they're like, "I'll take option A, option B." Rhydon, that 7 series is, I believe, the clone, and it's made by basically the same OEM as the Tractoric and the Athlon, and prior to that, there was a couple others. So it's a very similarly featured scope. Same thing with one of the new Black Hounds as well. So I haven't personally owned the Rhydons, but I think the X7 should be a decent scope. Okay. So we did a video on them. There was an adjustable scope cap. I'm sorry, it was the integrated scope cap. I don't know whether they're still in business or not. Go back for my SHOT Show 2020 videos. It was one of the FAB ones. We did a separate video on those. I will have to take a look, but remind me on Discord, and I will take a look at it. I'll try to find it. Okay, so this is actually from Peter. Does Nikon make optics for rifles? No, we do not. So a couple of years ago, I'm sorry, I'm getting questions out of order a little bit. So a couple of years ago, Nikon, they're a publicly traded company. They got a lot of pressure from their shareholders who basically said, hey, it's like on one hand, you're making these really expensive cameras and spotting scopes so you can take pictures of birds and wildlife. And on the other hand, you're making optics to go kill those very same beautiful birds. So they basically got pressured into it. Plus, along the same lines, the Nikon management, they decided to start cutting costs. So they literally started chasing profits, and a lot of their products basically became crap. And then basically they made a business decision just to get out of it. Now, some of the older Nikons, I mean, they're still really, really nice scopes. They still have a Monarch scope, but they only had like, I think like if you're talking about like scopes like this, so first focal plane type reticle scopes, they only had a couple, and it was like the Black series is recently came out. If you can find one on clearance, it might still be okay. Those were Japanese made. However, the older Monarchs and stuff, most of those are like meant for like F-class shooting. Those are all going to be 1-inch tube, second focal plane, things like that. Still have one. That was actually the scope that I had on my first Remington 700 VS when I started shooting. Night Force NX8 2.5 to 20 under $2,000. So Night Force makes some really good scopes. I have not played with a bunch of them. I also have to realize that Nikon is also a very cultish brand. So it's sorry, Night Force. So it's interesting. Like if you go into F class, pretty much everyone's going to be shooting a Night Force scope. You go to PRS, you still have Night Force people, but not as much. It's a lot more loophole there as well. I'm not familiar with the NX8s in particular, but I know, for example, Ilya, he's not. Night Force is never going to be the best value for the feature price. I will say along the same line, so I played with some of the new EOTechs, the Voodoos. They are really nice, and basically those EOTechs were made by the same OEM as the Tractoric and the Ride-On X7 and all of that stuff. And basically, really where the difference is going to come in is that whether somebody's going to go to one of those OEMs in Japan or China and basically be like, yep, just slap our name on this and we're going to be good. Or we're going to be like, okay, well, we like this as this foundation, and then we want you to do this turret design. We want you to do this reticle. We want to have this different knurling, things like that. But a lot of the companies, so basically like a lot of the cheaper Bushnells, things like that, they literally just go to the company and be like, yep, just put our name on it and we're going to be good. One of them, I guess kind of something close to that was, so I don't believe Arkin still uses them, but the first SH4s and stuff and EP5s, they were Discovery Optics. So the Discovery Optics has a very similar scope. Very, very, very similar, except the turret design is different. That would be. I have an SVT-40 sniper. I haven't shot it yet, but it was like one of my holy grail guns. I was able to pick it up at an auction, and I was like, yes. And that was before the prices really went completely nuts. I think I only paid $1,500 for an SVT-40 sniper. And I will say my first actual match that I shot was a CMP Vintage Garand match that I shot with a Swiss K31. Okay, do tell. Show me. I wish I had a doll. Show me on this doll where the SH4 hurt you. So the SH4 is the Arkans are really feature-packed scopes. I mean, they're amazing values for the money. The problem is the quality control is completely inconsistent, and the customer service is inconsistent too. So I did a video on the Vortex Venom versus SH4. If you know and you can identify when you actually have a scope issue rather than it's an issue with you, I would recommend going with Arkin. However, if you need that support, you go with the Vortex every time. Okay. Um, where is it? There we go. Yeah. I think I shot somebody's PSL once. Um, so I don't have a Dragonov, but there's a video topic on this one that we're going to be developing that one. Because people ask me all the time, it's like, I mean, like, I'd really want a Dragonov, like a real one, but it's like, here's the thing, in Russia, you can get one for $1,000, and like, no one really cares about them. Versus here, people are lining up to pay $8,000 for a Dragonov knockoff. And a PSL, I don't consider a PSL a Dragonov because I mean that's literally a stretched AK made to look like a Dragonov. Completely different gas system. Good guns though. But I mean, like I remember like when we were 650. But I mean, right now the prices on the PSLs are completely nuts. And for those that don't know, so actually before starting the YouTube channel, the vast majority of the firearms I had were like old World War II surplus type rifles. So like Mausers, Israeli Mausers, Swiss. Have a bunch of Mosins, things like that. I haven't brought them out yet. What Vepr do you have? So I have two Veprs. I have a 223. That was an original Robinson Arms one. Um, and then I have a Vepr 2 that I picked up in 7.62 by 39. What I really kind of wanted is a Super Vepr and a Vepr and 6.5 Grendel. I really want a 6.5 Grendel AK. Okay. And only because Drew brought this up. Arkin is nice stuff. It's neat to have witnessed how they came out like a freight train, full throttle, just to prove everyone wrong in such a harsh market. So what Arkin did right, they went straight for influencer marketing. So they started handing out scope like it was candy. And you make the influencers the dealers instead of actually going to a dealer network. And I've talked about this. Oh goodness. Sorry, I'm gonna come back to that. So it's the dealer network. Um, I'm not. I've talked about it in other videos. Kind of have an issue with some of that stuff, but let's put this way: they paid sizable commissions to influencers in order to push the scopes, and they did, and that's how they came out. But they also checked off all the boxes for the features and all of that stuff. And we're generally good people at Arkin. But unfortunately, we have growing pains as a result of it. Got my Vepr for 800, and it's a 7.62 by 54R and 23-inch barrel. I don't suppose you want to sell that gun. Or can we borrow it for some video? Where are you located? I would love a Vepr and 7.62 by 54. Really what I wanted is to see how far we can push 7.62 by 54. I'm not sure if anybody would even make a new barrel in 7.62 by 54. Basically, I mean, you have to find the bolt head. That would be really cool. I would love to do a nice modern bolt gun in 7.62 by 54. Are you going to the NRA show? So for people watching, we're going to be watching this replay. So in 2 weeks, I will be down in South Carolina for the Palmetto State Armory event. That's PSA The Gathering event. Public range day. 2 days, you can basically, there's going to be a bunch of vendors there. You can shoot all the PSA stuff. and you can shoot a bunch of others. Really, really cool event. I'm looking forward. We're going to be going to that. That's March, I think, like 24th, 25th. And then I am contemplating going to NRA show, because prior to NRA, Primary Optics is going to have their own range event. So, and that's in Indiana. So that's that. And crap, we went already over double what I wanted to do. So this was fun. I'm actually going to start wrapping this up. Let me just make sure we didn't cover any of the questions, but hopefully that I answered some of the questions that you guys had. Don't I didn't play with that one. I know people who have it and they're rarely happy with it. And yes. And he just joins right now. But no, the Leupold Mark V's are great scopes. I mean, they're fantastic scopes. I'm sure, I'm fairly positive Leupold is going to be down at PSA. They were there last time. I will absolutely play with the Mark V 2 to 10 and ask him for one for the channel. But yeah. Okay. So, I am going to wrap this up. I am going to go stuff my face and then go pass out. Because possibly tomorrow I might be able to go make it to the range and start actually playing with some of the stuff. Okay, and I think I covered most of the other stuff. If I didn't, just leave it as a comment below, and I will make sure to go back through and answer that one. And as always, well, not always, is most of the time. So this replay is going to be available for 24 hours, and then we make the replays available for members only. All right. I see one. Dang it. So, Chris, yes. PSA, they announced, I'm sorry, PA, Primary Arms, Optics. They announced a whole bunch of the new optics. They're now finally starting to ship and starting to come out. Yes. Drew, thank you for joining, buddy. Thank you, everybody else. Davey, Chris, Northman, Buzz. I know you were in here. Ryan, as always. Gary. Peter. Now I'm on a mission to get them all. Gary again. Okay, I think I got everybody who participated in the chat. Thank you, guys. Oh, and CBT. Card Shark. Oh, James, as always. J and K. Thank you, guys. And then, so, hit it, become a channel member if you haven't done so already. Get those discounts. And then we do have a Discord community as well. That's slav.ly/Discord. And then we have the online chat room there, and you can ask away. As always, thank you guys for watching. Keep on squatting, and we'll see you in the next video linked up there.